All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Comic Book Syndicate again. This is your co-host Mike Allen. As always, I'm joined by
Joshua Merville, and today we are going to be talking about the 2023 animated feature film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.
Yes, and we're not going to summarize the plot because we're going to assume that if you're listening to this review, you have watched this film, and we'll give a quick rundown. Let's not even do that because then we'll fall into the trap. Let's just say that this is a reboot, right? This is another reboot of the Turtles. Yeah. Let's just say quickly, I don't even know if we've ever talked about this on the show, but since people are so interested in what our opinions are, I'm just going to say that I first came across the Ninja Turtles in the 80s, possibly when the black and white comic had been out for only a couple years. My cousin in Tilbury had a few issues, and it was like the cool indie thing to read, you know, black and white comics. There was the black and white boom in the 80s, and it was cool to see these turtle things. I didn't know what they were. Then maybe a year later, there was a kids version comic book from Archie Comics, right? And I'm not sure if that came first or the cartoon, but then the cartoon came out, and then obviously the whole thing exploded, right? Yeah, exploded. One of the biggest franchises in history, blah, blah, blah. So, the comic book was fun for what it was. The cartoon was actually pretty entertaining. Yeah. I remember being really good. It's
great.
And I saw the first
and the toys, fantastic.
The toys were great, of course.
Yeah.
Now I at that point was a little bit too old to get into the toys heavy, so I don't think I had any of my own. But I did watch the cartoon, and I definitely saw the first two movies at the theater. So Turtles 1 and Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze I saw in the theater, and I actually went back about 10 years ago and rewatched the first film, and it holds up surprisingly well.
Yeah. It's still a fun kids movie for sure.
Yeah, and to be fair, we'll talk about this when we get to it on Tape Crusaders, but it actually followed the plot of the comic books, the original comic books, not the cartoon. That's partly why I think it was so good. But anyway, there was also a rebooted film by Kevin Monroe in 2007, which would have been reviewed by the Comic Book Syndicate in 2007. I don't remember what was said about it.
And a fully 3D animated one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then a Michael Bay version, which we will not talk about because Michael Bay sucks. And then a sequel, also produced by Michael Bay, which we won't talk about because Michael Bay sucks. And then finally, that brings us to this version. There's also TV shows that we haven't mentioned. There's a whole bunch of different versions, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of other animated features as well, like Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that came out last year, I think, which is pretty good. Yeah, so this is a long-standing franchise that has a lot of good, some not so great, but this had the potential to be very, very good and also kind of just mediocre, just like another Turtles film. Mm-hmm. Personally, I thought that this movie was great.
I gotta say, I tend to agree with you. It wasn't... You know what? I was going to say it wasn't quite as good as Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but I enjoyed it almost as much. It was pretty good.
Yeah. I think that the style, the jokes I thought were pretty good. The story was surprisingly heartwarming and fresh for being almost another Ninja Turtle origin story. Right. They were able to do something new with it. And I think this is the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle adaptation where I believed that these characters were teenagers.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, actually, yeah.
Even the original movies or the original cartoon, the cartoon, maybe you could make a better argument for them being kids, but the movie, I don't know, every adaptation, they're just adults. This one, they casted actual kids, actual 13, 14-year-olds to play the parts. I think that the one downfall of this movie is that there are a lot of current references in it.
Okay, and that would date it.
Which might date it, but it at the same time, it also made this, again, feel like these are real kids.
Yeah.
Like they really feels of the time. These turtles are young and they're hip and they know like current things. It doesn't feel like a writer's room writing dialogue for cool teenagers.
Yeah, and you know what? We have to talk about the fact that this was written by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. Now, Seth Rogen, we know, is the goofy guy that acts in all these movies, but he's also a writer and a producer. He has produced Preacher. He produced The Boys. He produced The Invincible.
Boys,
and also, what's it called? Sandman. He's the producer of Sandman.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, though. That's, yeah.
You know what? And I'm going to double check my research. It's not mentioned in his Wikipedia, so strike that from the record. But he was involved with it at some point.
Right,
I'm positive he is. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, forget I said that. But let's be clear. He is not just like a goofy, stand-up comedian. He's a talented writer. And what he brought to Superbad and, Pineapple Express and even movies like... The Interview, which was actually a surprisingly good movie. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's a good writer. And him and Evan Goldberg, the co-writer, they brought that to this movie, directed by Jeff Rao, who I don't know, to be honest. I guess he's done The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Another he's an animator at Sony. Like he has a background in animation. Sure. Yeah.
So anyway, yes.
Oh, and he was a writer for Gravity Falls. Oh, that's great. Which is one of the best like current-ish kids TV shows. It is one of the best animated cartoons for kids out there.
There you go.
Fantastic writing.
They did it right. So we have to talk about the animation. So when the trailer for the 2007 one came out, I hated it. I believe I didn't like the movie. The Michael Bay one, I guess you said it was live action? Was it live action with CGI turtles, or what was it?
Yeah. Okay, so they had they had a bunch of guys there on the set with the ping pong balls on them and whatever. Because Megan Fox was April O'Neil in that one. Okay.
Can I just say that the guys in the suits in the 90s were fine? I was fine with that. I thought it totally worked. But this movie supports my theory that I came up with in 1989, that as much as I loved Tim Burton's Batman, I really feel like animation works better for superheroes and for fantasy, for characters like this, because no matter how good a movie looks, it always still looks like a set. And with this movie, they're able to control the light and the composition, and I'm assuming influenced by Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The animation style is radically different from the way animation's been done, right, in the past 10, 20 years. Now, do you want to talk about that? Like, what makes this style different? What makes it...
So, I mean, starting from the character design, I mean, all of the characters kind of have this asymmetrical, doodled look to them.
Like, they have doodles on their faces, right?
Yeah, they've got doodles on their faces. Like, all of them are like all of their faces look like they've been kind of like made out of clay perfectly and then almost like punched. Yes. And then that's kind of like their new bent clay form is how they permanently look. It's so interesting. They definitely played around with the renderers and the shaders in this, and it to me looks like they did a lot of post-production, doing like paint overs and smears to give it this like artsy clay painter look to it. It's so great, so creative. Why not? Like, this is the animation is the medium for you to add these things, to add to what's happening in the scene and the action and the story. It's so great that Spider-Verse has kind of opened the doors for studios to realize that being like letting your artist be creative like this gives you successful movies. People love seeing this.
Yes. And the thing is that we knew we liked it all along. Like, I don't know about you. Do you remember Polar Express?
Awful.
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I also apply that to comic books that try to look too realistic. Like, there's this style of art where the art looks like it's just like a photograph, drawn over. Like, there's some people that like that. I think it's horrible. Why would you read a comic book that looks like it's photographed? Just look at a photograph, right? If I'm going to read a comic book, I want it to look like a comic book. When I watch a cartoon, I want it to look like a cartoon. And yes, I know that this is 3D animation, but I feel like the creators of Into the Spider-Verse, it's almost like they discovered something that the answer was right in front of us all along. Oh, yeah, it's supposed to look like a cartoon. Oh, yeah, right. Like, it's almost like the Chuck Jones thing. Like, if you're going to draw a tree, draw the tree and then make the color go outside the lines, because it doesn't matter. It's not supposed to be realistic, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think, too, Disney and Pixar have been such a success for so long, and rightfully so. Like, their movies are great. They look beautiful. But because they've kind of copied this Disney style, that's kind of what animation studios have been aiming for, right? They've been trying to get to this, like, Disney-fied level of animation. So everything's kind of been this same style, like, for the most part, trying to reach this semi-realistic but still stylized cartoony look. So yeah, Spider-Verse being the like way out there, I think has opened the doors to changing that. And I think even a good example of that is the Puss in Boots movie that came out this year, the 3D animated one, was very good. Like, it's actually a very solid, fun action movie, and it's the second Puss in Boots movie. Like, it's a spin-off.
Okay.
It's a sequel to a spin-off of Shrek. You know, it's so ridiculous it shouldn't be good.
Sure.
But they were like, you know what? Let's not do what we've been doing since Shrek, the first Shrek in 2002 or whenever that was. Let's do something different. Let's do our own style. Let's make it almost look like a storybook, how it's rendered. And it looks fantastic. It's great.
Exactly. And I haven't seen that film, but what you're saying makes perfect sense to me. I'm actually playing the trailer now, and I'm just taking a look at it just to kind of bring back some of the memories of, how this movie looks.
Yeah.
The way the movie opens with them on this adventure, but it's kind of funny because they're actually just going to get yogurt for Shredder, right?
Right.
Like, this is great. Like, it's again, the main audience should be younger people, and I'm assuming that they would love this. The what's it called? Like, the sewers look gritty and grimy and dirty. The lighting looks good. The city, it feels like New York City, with the lights and everything. And like you said, they act like kids, they talk like kids, they interact like kids. I love the imagination of having their almost not bunk beds, but the way their beds are kind of integrated into the sewer, like they're kind of in the wall, like in the bricks and stuff like that. I love all that stuff.
Yeah, the fact that they have like cell phones and they're playing video games, like they just feel like teenagers again. Like back when the Ninja Turtles first came out, it was like skateboarding and pizza were like the like stereotypical kids things. They're just like the stereotypical teenagers in this too. It's and I also would not be surprised if they had the four actors recording lines together and bouncing off of each other, which is not normally something you do in animation. There's like a script and everybody reads their lines separately in different rooms at different times and it's pieced together. But it just feels so natural, and it feels like there were like real conversations and ad libs going on.
Agreed.
I'm willing to bet that they had, at least at some points, the four kids in one room recording together and bouncing off each other. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. And now, we haven't really talked about the plot, but we're just going to briefly say that, we have the four turtles, we have Shredder, we have April O'Neil, and we're introduced to a group of bad guys. But notably, Shredder is not in the main story.
Right.
Shredder is not featured in the film. We're introduced to a character called Superfly.
Baxter Stockman. Right. Baxter Stockman is the one creating all of these mutants.
Right, okay.
And his main, like his first one that he's created is Superfly.
Right. But we are introduced to Rocksteady, Bebop, and all these other characters like Leathernet, Wingnut. And I gotta say, when I was watching this movie, some of it felt like, okay, this is like sort of typical, what you'd expect from a movie like this. But there was something about the way that the bad guys were portrayed and the way that the turtles were sucked in to the point where they're kind of like, oh, well, they're going to help them. Pardon me, there's something about the way it was written where it felt more realistic than most superhero movies I've seen. Because these people were not evil. They were just like, oh no, like, we're going to kill everyone because humans are bad and we're going to kill them. And the turtles were like, yeah, we hate humans too, but there's just something about the way it was written and the way it was acted where it didn't feel like, oh, we're going to find out the supervillain's secret plot and then we have to... It just felt like natural. It's almost like that trick of... when you're writing when you have the plot in the movie, you don't want the audience to realize it's almost like you don't want to see the strings for the marionettes. You want to just feel like it's just happening naturally, and this movie did it better than most superhero movies, where you're like, oh, here's plot point 1, here's plot point 2, here's where we find out the villain's secret plan, here's where the blah blah blah. No, it just felt like everything was unfolding naturally. Did you feel that too?
Yeah, and I think that the key was that they set it up from the beginning that this character that we all know and love felt the same way as the bad guys. Yes. They set Splinter up as the person who is most afraid of humans, who does not want to interact with him the most, and having these kids feel like displaced from society and like interested in it and wanting to be a part of it, but also so scared at the same time when they're finally introduced to people like them and even somewhat like Splinter. They immediately feel like they're part of their family, even though they know that they're bad guys and doing bad things. They can't help but, and the audience as well, can't help but be kind of like attached to these characters and feel for them. And that's before you even really like hear them say any jokes or get introduced to them. It's all because of the setup that they've done with Splinter and the Turtles from the start. So this is an example of an organic story where everything is planned out ahead, everything fits together, there's setup and there's payoff, which is the opposite of what we've seen in, for example, The Flash, right? A lot of the other movies we've seen, a lot of unfortunately, the Disney Star Wars films where things are reshot and redone by other directors and other people are brought in, and even some of the Marvel TV shows where things have been reshot and reordered. Picard was, a disaster where Picard they shot half a season and then compressed it into 3 episodes. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but the point is that in this film, like you just said, everything is set up from the very, very beginning with these characters, and that sets up the arc of the film, and it's perfectly done. And some of the things are sort of typical of what you'd see in a movie like this, but there's that underlying element of originality and also authenticity, where it's like, yes, they are turtles, they are teenagers, they act like teenagers, they have individual personalities. It's fun, the animation's fun. I actually really liked April O'Neil. We're not gonna again, I already can't stand Michael Bay, but the fact that he cast what's her name Megan
again?
Fox again.
Megan Fox as April O'Neil. Are you kidding me? Come on. Not right for the role at all. This April O'Neil was fine. Now, I'm not familiar with the actors that played the Turtles, but I believe you said they're all unknown, right?
I think that they're mostly unknown. I'm sure that they've been in some things before, but they're all relatively unknown actors. We had Michael Abbey as Donatello, Shaman Brown Jr. as Michelangelo, Nicholas Cantu as Leonardo, Brady Noon as Raphael, and Ayo Eldabiri as April O'Neil.
And the thing is my theory about animated films, I don't think any kid goes to see an animated film because of the voice actor. I'm sorry.
No.
They pay these big money for these actors, but go back 60, 70 years. The people who voiced the classic Disney films were not well-known actors. They were just voice actors, right? Yeah. And really, I think that's all you need. Now, obviously, Seth Rogen put himself in the film as Bebop just for fun. They got John Cena to play Rocksteady.
That's that's fun.
Yeah, he's probably there one day.
I think the great thing about it too is there was not one character besides Giancarlo Esposito as Baxter Stockman that I was like, oh, that's this person.
Sure.
Every single one of these actors was like doing a voice.
Yes, you're right.
Like even Seth Rogen, you could kind of tell that he was Bebop, but he was like putting on like a voice for it.
Yes. However, I must say I did know that Ice Cube was Superfly because I'm a huge fan of NWA.
Actually, yeah, sure. So, that's maybe the one. Yeah.
And he was great. He was great as Superfly. Yeah,
but like, did you know that Mondo Gecko was Paul Rudd?
No idea. No clue.
Like, like it could have been anybody. So, it doesn't. I definitely wasn't pulling people to the theaters, I don't think.
And also, I didn't know Jackie Chan was Splinter until all the credits. Did you?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Perfect.
Yeah,
and so it's funny because here we are again, and we reviewed Flash on a previous episode of Comic Book Syndicate, but of all the superhero movies, okay, let's put it this way, of the superhero movies that have come out in 2023, wow, I'm going to say I think that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, is that what it was called?
Yep.
And this one could be the two best ones.
I agree.
Like, and even this goes back to, I remember a friend of mine half jokingly saying that she thought the Lego Batman movie was the best Batman movie. It kind of is. Like, it's not, obviously
it's very good.
Yeah, I love The Dark Knight, but as a well-rounded movie, a lot of times the animated movies are better, and I think it's partly because the studio goes, we don't really care about what you guys do with this animated stuff. Do what you want. And so it's just better because there's less interference, right?
Yep. Totally agree.
So yeah, I enjoyed this film and I would recommend it to anyone. And I would actually, I would encourage people to see it because it's not just a matter of like, see it for your own entertainment, for its entertainment value, but see it because you want to vote with your wallet. Like you want to send a message to studios that, when they do something good, you support it, right? Like you have to. That's one reason I go to see movies at the theater because, well, I see all the crappy ones too, so that doesn't really, But when something's really good, I see it more than once. Like Blade Runner 2049, I saw it 3 times in the theater because I want the studios to know that they've done a good job.
Yeah.
So,
Into the Spider-Verse, I think is the movie I've seen the most in theaters. I just kept going to see it. I couldn't believe it when I first saw it.
How many times did you see that?
Probably 6 times in the theaters. Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, and it was mostly like I saw it like opening night, and then I went again later that week because I just wanted to see it again. And then I was like talking to all my friends, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't know, I haven't seen it. I'm not super interested." So I was like, "Okay, I'm buying you a ticket. We're going." I was just like constantly bringing my friends to go see the movies because it was just that fun, I think.
It's funny because I've only seen 2 movies in my life more than 3 times at the movie theater, okay? Mm-hmm. And the first one was Pulp Fiction, and the second one was Spider-Man 1 from 2002. Oh,
yeah?
Isn't that funny? It's another Spider-Man movie. It's almost like, we should do a comic book podcast together or something. But anyway, I don't really know what else to say about this film. Like I said, I definitely liked it. Now, I have not seen all the other Turtles adaptations, but I think you have, or you've seen most of them.
Most of them, maybe not all of them, but pretty close. Actually, I have not seen Batman and the Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
I have not seen. Maybe most of the other ones. I'm sure that there's some that I'm missing, but
so of the ones you've seen, where does this one rank?
I think this is the best adaptation out of all of them. I think it stands even above the original cartoon.
Wow. What about the 1990 film?
I think I like it more. I think the 91 has a lot of nostalgia. I watched it a lot as a kid.
Sure.
It's super fun, but I think that this one is definitely a better story. Like, I think that...
Yeah.
I think as far as, like, films go, like, this is way above.
I think that I think the plot of the 1990 film is excellent, but I think that again, even though the guys in the suits are fine, there's still that feeling of like it's just a set. It's not fantastic enough.
Yeah,
right?
I don't almost like lose myself in it not being a movie, and which is crazy because it's a live action. Where this one, I'm not thinking it didn't pull me out at any moment.
Exactly. Well, it just goes back to the whole idea that when the more cartoony artwork is, the more you feel like you're participating in the story rather than just looking at it.
Yeah.
And this is something that some comic book fans can't get their mind around. They just automatically think, nope, if the art's the more realistic, the better. And they just can't understand that, yeah, when it's cartoony, you feel like you're in it. You feel it more. It's different. And the same goes with this movie, with this animation style. You remember it as a thing, almost like a dream, like you're in the movie. But when you think about the 1990 films, you remember seeing a bunch of puppets.
Yeah.
Even though they're cool, you still just remember seeing a bunch of puppets. Yeah. So we definitely recommend this film. We both think it's one of the best comic book movies of the year, which wasn't saying much, but it still is one of the best.
It's a shame that we can't release this right now, because I would love to like spread the word as much as we can about this movie and promote it, because it is that good. It's
I agree.
Very fun. And it's doing pretty well at the box office, but it deserves to do way better, I think.
Agreed. So there you go. If you're listening to this review long after this movie's been released, you still have a chance. You can rent it, stream it, buy it, whatever you want.
Yeah.
But we definitely recommend it. Check it out. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. And we will also be reviewing Aquaman and what other movies have not been delayed by the strike, so keep your eyes peeled for those.
Right.
Plus, we also do Slam, which reviews superheroes, DC superheroes throughout the ages. We do Taped Crusaders, which is superhero adaptations throughout the ages. And we do Quasar Quanology. So check everything out. And Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. You can find all of our stuff over on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. We're also slowly switching over to doing some video stuff, so you can also find our videos podcast on our YouTube channel. Leave us a review, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about the movies and the comics and the shows and all the good stuff we're talking about. Let us know what you guys think, and let's keep that comics conversation going.
That's right. So until the next time, see you later.